A warm welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Do not forget to subscribe. My name's John McClure. You may have seen me in movies such as The Snow Foam Lancer, Time Forgotten, Journey to the Centre of the Wax Pot. I know, I've done that one before. Sorry, feeling frivolous. Now, today we're back with our Hall of Fame wax series. And this wax holds a particular place in my heart as perhaps one of my personal favourites. What is it? It's Scholl Concepts Premium Vintage Wax. Why is this in this Hall of Fame thing? Scholl Concepts perhaps don't have the pedigree as wax makers like your Swiss Waxes or your Zymols, stuff like that. Although they do have very good technical pedigree as a manufacturer of abrasives and all their products. And about, I believe, 10 or 15 years ago, Scholl Concepts, I think, wanted to get in on this premium wax thing and produced what I think may be one of the best sort of like handcrafted, handmade, premium, old school, authentic type wax. So it's a 50-year anniversary edition. Some interesting things: pure carnauba and cacao blends. The cacao bean, I think that's using the cacao oil, which is something you can put on your skin and all that sort of stuff. And it's really like, smells like chocolate, doesn't it? Is it? I don't know. Tell me what the cacao bean is, but it smells amazing, okay? Handmade in Germany, 200 mil. This product costs around, I think, normally about 200 quid. Into Detailing sell it for £194 for this 200 ml pot. So this is not a cheap wax, is it? This is very premium. This is going for the top of the market. This is going for your Swiss Wax, your Zymol levels where you got to pay. And that probably puts a lot of people off. But that's just what it is. It comes in another tin, and then this glass pot, probably one of the better quality wax pots that you can get. Very solid, but obviously you don't want to drop a glass pot on top of your car. Now, the first thing, guys, there's very few waxes that I've ever seen that are this dense and carnauba heavy. Okay, this has been used, so it's not the sort of original pour. You can see some cracking of this wax. This is probably the most grainy, crystalline form of car paste wax that I've ever seen. And you can even see the chunks of dissolved carnauba in it, that if you work them in your finger, they'll break down. Getting those big chunks, it's the wax, getting these big chunks of carnauba in your wax requires a few things. One, it requires a lot of carnauba to be in there. In this case, all carnauba in terms of the wax. The more you melt that down and include other waxes, you lose the graininess and it becomes more like a balm, like a moisturizer. Softens and becomes, more like a grease almost. But also to get these chunks, crystalline chunks, you see them in kind of waxes like Swiss Wax and some of the other more kind of boutique, handmade type waxes. I found that you had to not melt the waxes quite as much and do everything just at the point where the carnauba wax will melt, which I believe it's 75 degrees from memory, but I'm starting to lose all of my knowledge of where all these waxes melt, because they all melt at different temperatures. I thought carnauba was 75 degrees, but that might be Montan. It might be a bit lower than that, or it might be 80. Can't remember, but you don't want to over dissolve it, over temp it, because then you lose that crystalline kind of thing. So that's the first thing. This is a really crystalline. It looks dry, okay, but it's not. It's just, there's a good amount of oil in there. And to get this amount of carnauba dissolved, you're going to have to balance that with a good amount of oil. And it's interesting they've opted for this cacao oil because it has a smell like chocolate, but it's an organic, beautiful smell rather than a fragrant smell. So that's one of the things I like about the experience of this wax, is that it doesn't smell like a chemical chocolate. It smells like the sort of thing. I use cocoa butter moisturizer. I'm not proud of it. Don't tell anyone. I have to. I get dry skin and eczema and all that sort of stuff. So I love that cocoa butter moisturizer. And this reminds me of the smell when I put that kind of cocoa butter moisturiser on. Don't tell anyone. Just incredible. One of the most quintessential wax appearance. It's like what you could use, the old surfers would use to put on their surfboard. Absolutely fantastic. I love that. Really love that. Now let's just load up some of this wax. Now this wax came to my attention 10 years ago in perhaps the largest, most wide scale, most extensive kind of test of car waxes ever conducted, that we did with the Pro Detailers magazine in the Auto Glim labs using all sorts of equipment, UV tanks, gloss meters, test panels. But I, as well as doing that testing in the lab, I got all of those waxes, about 30 or 40, back in my garage, back when the cabinets used to be along here, and I had them all laid out, and I went through and I tested them to hell and back. I was so proud and happy to be part of doing the test. And this kind of wax, I didn't know initially what to make of it. But then we started getting data back. This wax we recommended because of its gloss performance on those test panels. It really had a good performance on gloss. And later on, when we did the durability testing, the gloss retention on this product was also one of the highest, which is something I think Bert did with the Angel Wax guys. So this Carnauba wax blend that's only Carnauba also seemed to have the best gloss retention, as well as winning our gloss recommendation. Now, I've reglazed this surface, so we're putting wax onto a fresh area. So it's not as greasy and oily. It's not as easy to spread as, say, the PS or the R222 wax or some of the other show type waxes in our Hall of Fame. It's a bit drier as a wax, okay, even though there's an oiliness to it, but it's not oozing oil so that it's like a butter to spread. No, it's got a drier feel to this wax, but with a good applicator like we've got here, it goes on beautifully. Now, the instructions for this tell you to just put the wax on like we've just done. Always the golden rule. Thin layer of wax, although I don't think it'll be the end of the world with this. What's all this? Is this a hazard statement? Yeah, there are some instructions to this somewhere. I think maybe on the other tin, because it came in 2 tins. But basically, like any wax, you put it out, you let it cure, and you buff it off. Now, there's a couple of things with this wax. You can use it like a show wax, so you can go straight on like this. You could literally count to 2 minutes. You could give it a buff. You're not going to get a complete dry haze meringue. You're going to have that sort of film, and it's just going to toughen up that film a little bit. What I also remember about this wax, and I've used it on a few cars over the years, is it also has quite decent hydrophobic properties for a pure Carnauba blend, which surprised me, because Carnauba, when your wax is backboned with Carnauba and nothing but Carnauba and oil and solvent, the solvent obviously disappears. Carnauba is not that hydrophobic. It's sort of like it will give you a contact angle of like 90 degrees, so it'll have a bit of beading. But for some reason, this wax seemed to be quite repellent when you put it down. I was never sure how they managed to do that, if that's the oils that are in it or something like that. But I always felt this wax, yeah, that film's starting to toughen up now, so we can buff. I always felt this wax really exemplifies everything that a show wax should be. It should be it should have that handcrafted feel. It should be reliant on Carnauba, really. There are exceptions to that in this test, aren't there? You could say the Fuso coat, for example, isn't reliant on Carnauba, but if it's going to be a hand-poured, handmade, premium paste wax that costs a lot of money, it's got to be carnauba dominant at least, and this is pure carnauba. There's nothing else in there. You add beeswax in there and you'll get a more balm-like blend that we talked about. A more, the wax won't have the graininess to it. You add montan in there, you'll get a more crystalline wax which cracks and has a harder feel to it, but obviously has a lovely crystalline gloss. But that montan creates a problem in the blend. Yeah, you over oil it. It can become a bit greasy and you can get the shiny kind of wax buffer trails. So they've got this so good. This wax may be the example, the best example. This may be the best example of a boutique kind of premium wax blend that I've ever seen. And the real icing on the cake was I didn't really know much about it. And I didn't really, at the point when we did that wax making mega test, I don't think I was that knowledgeable on paste waxes, to be honest. You know, I might have thought I was the bee's knees. Who knows? I don't think I really knew my arse from my elbow when it comes to paste waxes. So I didn't know much about this. But then when that data come in, so I sort of looked at the Scholl wax and thought, yeah, it's lovely. It's very kind of like, I get it. But, you know, I'm not paying 200 quid. But then when it came in and won all that gloss data testing, I thought, wow, so there is something to all this, you know, paying all this money and something. And, you know, there is something to the fact that it's got loads of carnauba in it. It's not using synthetic waxes. It's not a cheap product. There's something to that. And that something might not justify the £200 price tag. You know, it might not justify that price tag because you can go and get a good carnauba paste wax for like 20 quid. We know that. And the chemical costs or whatever are not really a significant factor. We know all that. The game's up on all that. We've known that for a long time. Yeah. I mean, it will produce some beads. They're quite pert. So it will do that. But yeah, they're not stonkers actually, but they're okay. I'm just looking at the kind of contact angles. You'll always get a bit of that going on when you atomise water onto a car panel. I'm not buffing that into the paint, don't worry, I'm just soaking it all up. But what an absolute cracker of a wax. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's such a personal thing, because I think the Scholl Concepts wax is kind of perceived of just being this kind of average kind of wax that's not really worthy of kind of comment. It's never really gone viral or anything like that, or it doesn't have the reputation of Fuso. And that, I think personally, you tell me what you think about this. When you talk about all the interesting stuff, people start getting a bit upset. But I think that's personally because that market for the high-end waxes was really dominated by Swiss Wax and Zymol and brands like that perhaps got in there first and established that reputation as the go-to place for the expensive waxes. If you had like a real classic car and you like waxes, you'd go to Zymol or Swiss Wax or whatever. So Scholl might have been a bit late to the high-end party. What do you feel about that statement, maybe? Without that kind of wax-making history of those particular brands, or whatever the word is, pedigree or established reputation or whatever. So they might be a bit late to the party to go in with a very high price tag on a handmade wax, which may have held the product back. But this wax from Scholl is so good. It's so good as an authentic kind of product that is just really nice to use. I love it. It could be, I'm not going to spoil the surprise on rankings and stuff, but it's a contender for being one of my personal favourites in the Hall of Fame series. I've got to do some deep soul searching and get all these waxes out and do some deep soul searching on which ones are my personal favourites, which will be really interesting. But this one is there as a contender. So yeah, very interesting. Sorry, lots of pauses. You really get on with it. So if you're into waxes, should you consider the Scholl paste wax? Well, It's award-winning. And there were Swiss waxes in that particular test that we did back in the day, but for some reason the guys picked Swiss Wax Shield, which was a PTFE blend that doesn't have, in my opinion, when I tested it, and I did lots of testing, it has the Swiss Wax Magic Blend, but it didn't have the durability. So it didn't really, I would go to Swiss Wax for the more authentic experience rather than using kind of PTFE additives in the wax. I would want a more simple Swiss Wax products, and indeed we have a Swiss Wax product in our Hall of Fame in that cupboard that you may or may have not seen the video on, so I won't spoil the surprise on which one it is. I would probably publish that. This is every bit as good as that Swiss Wax product, and if I had it sitting there, I'd really struggle to like know which one to opt for, because I love that reputation of the Swiss Wax thing as well. The Swiss Wax one is slightly oilier, not as carnauba heavy, similar price point. Well, that's 50 quid more, but we're up in that category, whereas you know, you're up in that category as just name the price. You know, maybe going more expensive is a good thing because you want the best. You know, that goes against everything I've said in the past, but comparing these sort of £200 waxes on price, where one's 250 and one's 200, is a bit like comparing you know, like an Aston Martin with a you know, £250,000 Aston Martin with a £200,000 Ferrari or something. You know what I mean? I think when you're up at that stage, the money might not matter. I don't know. Does it? You tell me. But yeah, amazing product. If you got, this is not going to be for 99% of my of the people that watch this channel. In the same way, it wouldn't be for me either. But because I'm a lunatic that's really into all of these waxes, I got a chance to fall in love with this product, doing a crazy kind of test that really allowed me to see a lot of waxes on the market. And yeah, this is one of my very personal favourites. Awesome. I don't think anyone who's into waxes could not love this wax. But yeah, don't buy it for durability, don't buy it for protective performance, but buy it because you're looking for that sort of hand-blended, ridiculously high carnauba, pure carnauba, heavy, slightly drier, even though it's got oil in it, but it's slightly thicker, shiny, amazing wax to use. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. We're getting through our Hall of Fame stuff now. I think we're probably down to the last, I can think of 1, 2, oh, I can only think of 2, 3. I can think of 3 more I think I've got to do. There could be a 4th in there. Have we done 6? Don't know. But there's some stonkers still to come, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're really in love with paste waxes. Doug.